Hi, everyone. David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at one of a series of turf stakes races taking place at Ellis Park this weekend. It is that Kentucky Downs preview weekend. They got a few stakes carded at the same conditions as stakes that will take place at Kentucky Downs in early September. And a lot of horses will be looking to prep for those high-pursed races at Ellis Park this weekend. Here we'll focus on the Kentucky Downs Preview Turf Cup on Sunday at Ellis Park. It goes as race 7 over the 1 mile and a quarter distance on the turf. And Mike, pretty interesting field of 10 runners signed on. The morning line favorite installed as the number 1 Highway Robber, who is one of, I believe, 3 Brian Lynch trainees in this race.
Yeah, I get him being the morning line favorite. I think he deserves to be the morning line favorite. And I viewed him as the horse to beat David, but I didn't think he had like some kind of huge edge on this field.
Yeah, and the other 2 Brian Lynch trainees both come in with credentials. Anglopile, the horse that's still trying to get back to the winner's circle for the first time in a long time, but has run some nice races. And Dashman, who is coming off a layoff, but was very good when last seen. So we'll see which of these Lynch trainees is most successful in this stakes on Sunday. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this preview Turf Cup. And Mike, really tough one to read because you go through this field, not too many horses are confirmed front runners. I guess the number 8 Quattro Centro that they have shown on the front end could be forward. He's at least shown a little bit of tractability in his races, but I'm not exactly sure who's going to wind up in front.
Me either. When I first saw the pace projector, I thought it was kind of odd to see that they had the 8 out there, but I guess there aren't that many different horses you could put there. Quattro Centro to me is not, I mean, he's certainly not a speed horse when you watch his prior races, but he can be pretty hard to handle sometimes. Stretching out in distance here, maybe they'll just decide to put him on the front.
I think one of the 2 Mike Maker horses likely to go forward. The number 4 is Seigoy, a horse that does some of his best running on the front end, though it seems like maybe he's lost a bit of that speed recently. And the number 10, Old Crazy Bone, showed speed on the dirt last time. Maybe he'll show that speed again, getting back on the turf in a new barn. Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Highway Robber, that morning line favorite that we were referencing. And Mike, he's just got a body of work that does make him the horse to beat in this spot. As you said, he doesn't always visit the winner's circle, but he typically gives a good account of himself, as he did last time in the Chorleywood, a race at a similar level to this at Churchill Downs, around 3 turns going the 11 furlong distance, and was just run down by a really strong finisher in Rebel Red. I wanted to see Highway Robber make a little more of a race of it at the end, given the good trip that he got, but still, he's just a consistent runner that is the horse to beat in this race.
Yeah, I feel the same way about him. I mean, his last race was fine. I wasn't blown away by it. I thought, like you, I thought he had a good trip and was really no match in that race. But listen, he's come back from Dubai. He's run well in both of his starts since he got back over here. He did win this race last summer, and then of course went right into that Turf Cup at Kentucky Downs. He ran great that day too, and I'm sure his connections would like to see him do the same thing.
The number 2, Verstappen, was also coming out of the Chorleywood. He finished right behind Highway Robber in 3rd. Another horse that didn't have a bad trip that day, never really saw the rail, had to make a 2 to 3 wide run, but just kind of flattened out at the end, Mike. And that's kind of the story with Verstappen. He's a grinder. He's pretty one-paced at the end of his races, and if it turns into a test of stamina, perhaps he could be successful. He just kind of lacks that turn of foot that you sometimes need in races like this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not like, way against this horse or anything. And I don't think he's impossible in here, but I can't say that I'm like some kind of huge fan. I've seen a bunch of his races. I've bet a bunch of the races that he was in, and I've never had my money on Verstappen, and I probably won't on Sunday either.
There are some interesting up-and-comers in this field exiting allowance races. One of those is the number 3 Multitask, who just won a optional claiming allowance last time at Ellis. And I thought he got a pretty good trip to win that race, Mike, but I liked how comfortably he did it, much more so than Tubac when he had to be hard-ridden to get there in a slower-paced race. Does feel like he's stepping forward with each start, but this is a pretty big step up in class.
Yeah, I guess that was my main concern with him too. I like his last couple of races, the 2 wins. I think he's run pretty well in them, and it sort of suggests that maybe he can move forward at some point and be competitive with horses like this. And yeah, I guess you don't have to worry about distance either, because he's run pretty well going 10 furlongs on a different surface. I don't know, man. There are things that I like about this horse. I couldn't talk myself into betting him.
The number 4, Seigoy, had some success last year after getting claimed by trader Mike Maker for $50,000. He won a grade 3 going a marathon distance on the turf. He won a stakes over the winter at Sam Houston. His recent starts have been pretty disappointing. He didn't get a great trip too back in the Louisville, where he was just stuck wide every step of the way with no cover. Last time, Mike, I was hoping to see a little bit more of an aggressive ride. We didn't get it. Maybe he just wasn't fast enough to make the leap from an outside post, but I'm now kind of wondering if that early speed has left him.
Yeah, that's going to be key in here too. I'm glad that you brought him up though when we talked about the pace projector, because I do feel like that his best chance in this race might just be to go forward and see how far he can take this field. I'd like to see them ride him that way too, because even though I wouldn't say he got a bad trip last time, they were pretty conscious to be conservative with this horse, and he wound up in a little bit of traffic, but he was totally empty when he came clear in that race. I thought he was pretty disappointing.
The number 5, Clydes Got a Gun, is another horse stepping up out of allowance optional claiming races into this stakes event. And he just missed last time, Mike. He ran pretty well in that 3-turn marathon at Churchill Downs, actually finished just ahead of a horse, Freedom's Way, who came back to win at Saratoga with a 91 buyer in his next start. I don't know if I like the slight cutback in this race to 1.25 miles, Mike, because I know he has only gone those marathon distances a few times. When I watch him run, he gives me the vibe of a horse that really just wants to run all day.
Yeah, I agree. I think more distance is better for this horse. I really don't like his running style for this race either, David. He doesn't have a lot of speed. I didn't think this race was going to set up great for this horse. And, at the end of the day, he's still got an awful lot to prove in races like this as well. I don't think he's ever run a race that's going to beat this field.
The number 6, Tapit Shoes, is going to be another big price in this race. He was really never any factor in the Chorleywood 2-back, a race that some other horses are coming out of in here. He did lose the rider in an incident 3 back in the Louisville around the turn. I don't know if he was going to be successful in that race. He did get back to the winner's circle last time, Mike. It was a smaller field, a weaker spot than this. He now has to prove again he belongs against Stakes Company.
Yeah, exactly. Class relief and a little turn back in distance really worked for him last time. Now they're going to step him right back up and stretch him right back out in distance with an awful lot to prove.
Number 7, Anglopile, is a horse that has not visited the winner's circle in a while, but he has run well in a number of graded stakes races, including 2 back in the Grade 2 Man of War at Aqueduct. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that race, where he had to cover a little bit more ground than Farbridge, was probably never getting to that foe anyway, because at the end of the day, Farbridge won this race pretty comfortably, but I still thought it was nice. It was a good effort for Anglopile to hang in there all the way to the wire. You can see he's really trying hard, just can't really bridge the gap between him and that heavy favorite. He came back last time also in the Chorleywood, Mike, and I just thought he got a strange trip. They were unusually aggressive with him earlier. Maybe he just took the jockey there to find himself in a stalking position behind a runoff leader in the early stages. And then Florent Drew was just content to let him drift back through the pack. He got a little shuffled on the far turn, heading to the quarter pole. I wanted to see him do a little more running when he got out in the stretch, but given the weird trip that he got, I kind of want to give him a pass for that race. And he's run plenty of races over the last 6 months or so that I think make him a major player in here.
Yeah, that's the real key for this horse is he's just so consistent. He's going to show up and probably run his race here. Like you, I liked his Man of War. I was confused by the ride that he got last time where Giroud just sort of let everybody move past him around the final turn there, so he wasn't in position. And then, he had a bunch of horses stacked to his outside through this. And I thought it was really hard to tell how much it cost him, but it cost him something. I don't like the ride that he got. That being said, I also am not sure how much credit I want to give this horse for having a tough trip in that race, because I've just seen too many races from this horse where when he does get good trips, he's still not good enough. And that really concerns me. I would use him in this race because he can win, but I wouldn't take too short a price on him.
I will say, I've always thought he's a horse that really wants the 1.25 mile distance. I feel like 1.5 miles is a little far. 1.1 mile is short. He doesn't get to run this distance that often. This could be the right kind of spot for him. The number 8, Quattro Centro, could not have been much more impressive last time when he beat a first-level allowance field at Ellis Park. He actually won a race at that level, was disqualified back in Tampa over the winter, so got a few more shots at it, but dropped last time, Mike, and he looked really good winning that race. I don't think there was a whole lot behind him, but anytime a turf horse wins a race by almost 5 lengths, you want to take notice, and they're stepping way up in class here, but they're doing it with a horse that seems to be in good form.
He's got talent. Whether this is the right race to run him in, and especially with the distance in play here, I don't know. And it's worth noting too, they haven't also entered in another one of these prep races on Saturday's card, going the mile. Maybe that's better. I don't know. It's interesting if he runs here though, because not only does he have that last race, he also, that Tampa race that you were talking about that he was disqualified from, he was super impressive winning that day too. This horse can run. Can he go with these horses? I don't know, but they tried, 1.5 miles with him at Keeneland 3-back. He didn't run great in there, but that was at a time when he was really hard to rate. He was very rank early in that race, and he seemed to be over that a little bit in his 2 most recent starts. So if he can settle a little bit and get the right trip in here,
I'm wondering what we should do with the third of these Brian Lynch trainees, the number 9, Dashman, because he looked like a horse that was ascending over the winter to maybe become one of the players in this marathon turf division after he won the Grade 3 William McKnight, which we'll take a look at the stretch run of. And Mike, he found himself in a position where he was kind of between a couple of runoffs, leading the rest of the pack. It's not always an ideal position to be in these longer races, but he moved early, kicks on again when he gets some challenges in the stretch here. I thought this was a legitimate performance to get the job done with a 99 buyer, and this is a horse that had shown some talent during his 3-year-old season. The problem is he went to the sidelines off a career best effort, which I never love to see, and Brian Lynch does have good numbers off last, but this is a tough spot to come back in.
Yeah, that's what bothered me most about him too, because in a lot of ways, I think he's the most interesting horse in the race, and maybe ultimately the one down the line that you want sort of going forward. We'll see what they're going to do with him here, David, because it is a layoff, and it's obviously a prep race. I mean, I think it's probably pretty clear that these connections think he can win the $2 million race at Kentucky Downs out of this, and that's probably what their goal is, to get there. So we'll see if he's all cranked up here to run his best race, because his best race will make him really tough.
I was thinking the same thing, kind of noticing the very light work tab for the return. Maybe next time is the goal for Dashman. The number 10, Old Crazy Bone, a horse who's tried a couple stakes races at this kind of level over the winter at Sam Houston, and then more recently 2 back in the Grade 2 Elkhorn. Didn't do much running through the stretch of the Elkhorn, Mike, but that was a tough field that he was facing, and he at least stayed on with those horses at the end. He got reined off the turf last time in an allowance race at Churchill Downs, and kind of interesting that they were way more aggressive with him, put him towards the front end, and he really battled back gamely through the stretch to almost come back on the winner of that race, Hershey. It was kind of a rare off the turf race where some horses with turf form actually produced their best form on the dirt. Now he's claimed out of that race for $100,000 by Mike Maker and Flying P Stable, some dangerous connections, and maybe they're going to be more aggressive again.
Yeah, it's a great spot for them to do it too. This horse is pretty interested in here at a price. I'd like to see them get aggressive with him. This is a horse you talked about his Elkhorn, right? He ran fine in there. I mean, I don't think he had a big excuse, but he ran fine in there. Even the Connolly, though, when they went 1.5 miles with him, I mean, I didn't think he got a great trip in that race, and I thought he showed he could handle distance that day too. Maker off the claim with a horse like this, always take a second look.
Let's go to picks for this preview Turf Cup at Ellis Park. And I've got that horse we were just talking about in the mix for me, the number 10, Old Crazy Bone. He's going to be a big price in this race. I wanted to include him, but Mike, I have a lot of affinity for the number 7, Anglopile. I've picked him in many races, and I've often been burned by him picking up minor awards. We'll see if this is the right kind of spot for him. There's not a ton of pace, but he does have a good finish on him, and I think the 10 furlongs works for him. You're going with an up-and-comer.
Yeah, your horse is a really nice fit in here. I think, to me, the race sort of centered around with the 1 Lynch, the 9 Dashman, who I kind of felt like was preppy, and I wanted to stay away from him, even though I know he can win. And so it made me think that Highway Robber was the horse to beat, but I don't really want a short price on Highway Robber. Maybe he'll just win. I'm going to try Quattro Centro and see if he's this good. A couple of his races, they look really good to me. This horse can really run. I want to try him.
7-10-1-2 for me and 8-1-9-7 for Mike in the Kentucky Downs Preview Turf Cup at Ellis Park this Sunday. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.